Sup, guys? It's Toad back with you for Better Off Dead. Saturday, May 31st. I gotta get an intro, man. I'm working on it. It's gonna be a banger. I'll shout out whoever, I forget whoever it was made the audio for it that I think we're gonna use for it, but I do want some audio with some banger music, basically, with some of the video clips from me. Yesterday, not good on the show, 1-3. St. Louis, Texas. Went over. First 5 inning, I think, went over as well. Texas just inexplicably put on a barrage of runs. I mean, I don't think Liberatore was even really that bad in his start. Like, strikeout walk ratio-wise was pretty good, but gave up runs, and Texas wound up winning 11-1 as St. Louis's bullpen didn't get it done either. Kansas City was a loss as well. Unfortunately, both starting pitchers did bad in that game, and it's just, it sort of just kind of became a coin flip at that point, which is kind of what you want when you're playing an underdog at home. But Seth Lugo was not good in his first game back. Mize wasn't good, so I did predict that part of it right. Minnesota, the one win yesterday, kind of got lucky on that one because they were losing 4-0, I think, in the first inning. So, I mean, Matthews had a horrific first inning, but he stayed in the game and he actually settled down. I think he went pretty deep into the game and allowed like nothing after that. So Matthews, once he got through that awful first inning, he was actually really good after that. Wu was good, but not as dominant as he usually is, which is what I predicted. So at least that part of it came true, and then it kind of got to the bullpens, and once it did, Minnesota had the upper hand because they were the more rested teams. They were able to win, but they did have to do so by scoring 3 runs in the 9th inning, I think, to even tie it, sending it to extra innings, and they scored 6 runs in the top of the 10th to win that one. So what do you want to say about that? It was luck, I guess, but I think the Yankees play, I think, got a little bit unlucky as the Yankees were winning that game early. A first 5-inning play would have won in that case, in that game, but Max Fried actually, he was doing well early in the game, and then they left him in probably too long, I guess, and he wound up giving up a bunch of runs as he tired out in the middle of the game there, which it was his worst start of the season because of that. So that didn't work out as the Dodgers got a bunch of late runs and wound up winning the game. I mean, I'm not sad about the Yankees losing, but that pick did not work out for me yesterday. First 5-inning would have, but I thought the bullpen scenario was kind of even both ways, so I didn't think it would matter that much. And in a way, it kind of didn't, just because a lot of the reason why the Yankees lost was because Fried gave up multiple additional runs while he was still in there past the 5th inning. So that's the way that it is. They need props that are like not just the inning props, but like what the starters are going to do and then what the bullpens are going to do. They probably do have some of that out there, but I just don't play a whole lot of props. Charles, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, Yankees suck, obviously. I am wearing my Red Sox hat again right now, which is the hat that I wear the most often. I forget what else I was even going to say, but I will clarify one more time that I'm not actually making these bets right now, although I've been pretty good over the last week or so. I think up over the last week. May, we're going to wind up with a winning May, I'm pretty sure. So the only losing month was March, but it was so bad that we're like sitting right around the break-even point on the year, so that's not great. If we're tracking everything, including these plays that I've been making recently, which, well, I'm not making them. I'm giving them out on the show, but I'm not actually betting them right now, just to clarify. But I think they've been what I would bet anyway. Oh, God, I hear like an ambulance going by. Am I having a stroke? I don't know. All right, let me get let's talk about today, man. We got a few sports to talk about here. We're going to talk about the NBA first, and I am going to recommend a play on the Indiana Pacers in this game just because I think it's a zigzag spot. It's a strong zigzag spot with the Pacers playing their worst game of the playoffs, I would say, so far in the last game, getting blown out. They were just losing the whole game. So the Pacers are going to be the team that has the adjustments to make, man. It was their lowest point output, I think, maybe also of the entire playoffs. And usually the Pacers, they're going to want to push the pace, make it a faster game. They're going to want to score a lot. And when Indiana scores, they win these games, basically. The under and the over, or I should say the over and the Pacers are very correlated in this series because they want to play fast and score a lot. And the 2 games that went under, not coincidentally, were the Knick wins in the series, but this is the Pacers' last home game of the series, man. They got to get it done here. They do not want to have to go to a Game 7 where they're going to be an underdog at New York after they're winning this series 3-1. They should be able to get it done here. Not only should the Pacers be able to make adjustments and shoot way better than they did in the previous game, which I think was a little bit of an outlier, although their shooting percentages weren't that bad, but they were un-Indiana-like. Neither team shot well from three-point range, but that's not really the Knicks' game. I mean, it's not really either team's game, but the Pacers did shoot lower than they usually do. Usually you see them in like the high 30% range from three when they do take the threes, and last night I think they were like, or last game they were like 29% or 30% or something, so there should be a bounce back there. But also the Pacers, I think, are a little bit more rested because I think they started taking their starters out before the Knicks did, and we know with the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau runs his starters into the ground, so the Pacers have a deeper roster, and as we get into these latest games in the series, I think that does help the Pacers, just like it did last year. The Pacers run like 10 guys out on the floor. The Knicks basically have like a 5-man rotation, even though some of their bench players have done fairly well, especially on defense, but it seems like, I mean, Thibodeau, just his game is he's going to use his starters as much as possible, and I think that can catch up to you towards the end of a long, grueling series like this. So the Pacers are going to want to push the pace for that reason, too, to tire out the Knicks even more. But as I was saying, the Pacers did rest their starters late in the last game because the game was over. It was a blowout, so the Pacers decided to just rest up for this game, so that should help them in this game as well. I forget what else was I going to say about this? Oh, and player prop potential, I would say, is really there probably on Halliburton, on his over points scored or whatever, because he had a particularly bad game in that game, but he didn't play his full slate of minutes. So I think he only scored like 8 points. So he's definitely a potential to go over his point total. And I think he's like a zigzag guy. Like a lot of these player props will zigzag because he had like his best game like in his career in the previous game, right, where he had a triple-double with no turnovers or something. So then you expect him to kind of regress from that, and he had a really bad game last game, partially because he didn't play his full slate of minutes. But now I expect him to bounce back and have another really good game. That would be my guess in this one. But hopefully for my sake, because I do not want these New York teams winning. Although, really, it's just the Knicks because they're starting to really irritate me this year because they beat the Celtics. So really, it's mostly just that I root against the Yankees. But fuck the Knicks right here. Go Pacers. We're going to play the Pacers in this game. 69% of tickets, only 67% of the cash on the Pacers. But I don't know if that cash percentage is actually accurate because I think this was a legitimate line move up from 3 to 3.5 with juice because there's a lot of money coming in on the NBA playoffs. It's not like MLB where you see a lot of like fake moves early on. I think that's less the case with these NBA playoff lines. I think the line movement that you see is kind of just the actual money coming in because I think in this case, professional bettors, if they like the Pacers, I think they kind of figured, well, we're probably not going to get this best number again. So it is now up through the 3.5. There's still some 3.5s out there. I think at about minus 114, that range. You might have to go up to -4. I mean, that's probably what I would do, I guess, if I was going to play it at that point. And I do agree with the over as well, just because I think the results are correlated. And if the Pacers shoot better in this game and they can control the pace, the over does make sense as well. 83% of tickets, 86% of the cash on the over, sitting at 220, which is a reasonable number for a series like this. So I think the money looks like it's coming in on the over, and I would agree with that as well. WNBA, we have one play, and it is not one play. I'm not going to make a play, but we have one game, I should say. I do not want to touch this game. It is possibly the worst matchup you could possibly get with Chicago, who's one of the worst teams in the league, and Angel Reese's team up against Dallas, who is still figuring things out because, as I keep mentioning, they had the first draft pick. They drafted Buckers. They're still trying to like figure shit out in Dallas. Chicago, they're coming off a game where they actually beat Dallas in the previous game in Chicago by 5 points. Chicago was a half-point favorite, it looks like here, as the line actually kind of moved towards Dallas. So this is a little bit of a zigzag kind of revenge spot for Dallas. So if that's kind of the handicap there, you could potentially look that way. And again, it was a game of quarters. I don't know why the NBA or WNBA seems to always play out this way, but Chicago had like basically exact first and fourth quarters where they outscored Dallas 29-19 in both of those quarters, and Dallas outscored them in the second and third quarters. So very strange, a game of quarters. It seems to happen a lot in the WNBA. I can't explain why, but I do think that Dallas is a decent candidate to bounce back from that loss, and they're still trying to figure things out, get their chemistry going, but Chicago is not a very good team. Dallas does at least have some talent. It's just that I think they're trying to get their chemistry going. I think once they do, they won't be like the actual like bottom tier team at that point. Once they do start figuring things out, they are up from a 1-point favorite to a 2-point favorite. So the odds makers are basically telling you Dallas is kind of the better team here because Chicago's like a 0.5-point favorite at home. The line looks a little bit short because I think even WNBA, you don't get like any home court really, but I think you still got to give teams at least maybe like one for home court. So I think the line actually might be a little bit short on Dallas too. So that's probably the lean there, but that's not going to be a play that I recommend. Betting an Angel misses her first shot in every game. Yeah, what's the percentage on that? How many of them does she miss? I don't even know. Pacers, yeah, exactly. I've made that joke a bunch of times. The Pacers, very appropriately named because they like to run the tempo up, which tempo isn't really that much of a thing in the NBA, but it is between those two teams because the Knicks want to play slower, really, but they seem to just, a lot of times they just will kind of just agree to play fast with a fast tempo opponent. I don't know. But tempo means more in college basketball. MLB, this is going to get boring probably because in the MLB, I'm going to recommend two plays, and they're both first 5 totals. They're both unders, so, I mean, it's going to be, yeah, again, kind of boring. Very unfortunately yesterday, that Milwaukee, like, if you played against both teams that have played 2 games, that had played 2 games the day before that, Philadelphia and Atlanta, you would have won because they both lost yesterday. So, unfortunately, I mentioned them like as leans, but there was just no way that I could play on like Giolito for Boston, whatever Milwaukee was doing with DL Hall out there, but he gave him 3 scoreless innings, and then Quinn Priester didn't fuck it up either, even though he sucks. So those 2 situational spots were strong, and they still got there. All right, in the afternoon today, first game up is going to be again Cincinnati and Chicago, and Cincinnati actually beat Chicago yesterday, the Cubs. Colin Ray starting to regress, man. He's not that great. He's not as good as he looked early in the season. He didn't have a good game yesterday. Andrew Abbott threw a really nice game against him. Now we're looking at Nick Lodolo against Drew Pomeranz, which I don't know what we're going to get here, man. Lodolo, he's actually better away from home. As you look at his splits here, Great American Ballpark hurts a lot of pitchers, and right now he is not doing well at home with a 6.15 ERA, but luckily for him, he's on the road. He's got a 1.45 road ERA, so he's been much better on the road. 3.39 ERA, 1.1 whip overall, so he does have good overall numbers. Recent stretch, I mean, he's been a little bit worse, 4.88 ERA on the month of May. 28-7 strikeout walk ratio is still pretty good, though, but he's allowed a few too many hits. He hasn't been that bad, though, since that 6-run outburst that Washington put up against him. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any other start, so that's not that bad. But he did just face the Cubs, and now he's facing them again, and that was a decent start for him, but the Cubs do hit him pretty well, and I think the pitcher is at a stronger disadvantage right after they saw that lineup. If that lineup is seeing that pitcher again right away, usually the hitters do have a little bit of an edge. And against the Cubs overall, 72 at-bats. He has an 18-11 strikeout walk ratio, which isn't good. 319 average, 972 OPS allowed. So the Cubs hit Lodolo pretty well, even though he usually is good on the road. I don't think this is a great spot for him, but do I want to have money on Drew Pomeranz? I would say no. But man, his ERA is 0 and a .55 whip. Yeah, I know. He has a 0 ERA, which actually is pretty impressive. 12 2/3 innings, I think, all out of the bullpen this year. He's made a bunch of bullpen appearances. Hasn't allowed any runs. He's only allowed 4 hits, 14-3 strikeout walk ratio. That's all pretty good, but I mean, we're probably only going to get about 1 inning out of him here. It's likely he's going with an opener game here, even though he could probably go more than that, but I kind of doubt they're going to do that. So I think the Cubs are going to use him as an opener for about an inning and then go to the bullpen, which is not a good scenario for the Cubs, I wouldn't say, because their bullpen is not very good. Pomerantz, I mean, he's a guy that's just been around forever, and he usually does not pitch this well. He's 36. If you look at his career stats, I mean, they're fine. 3.85 ERA is pretty good. His career whip is too high, though, 1.33, so he's a journeyman pitcher, man. I mean, he's been all over the place, a bunch of different teams. We'll see what happens, but I think probably the way to look at this game is actually probably to the over. Even though it looks like the line is dropped down to an under, and it's very low total, so you know what that means when there's a really low total in Wrigley Stadium or Wrigley Field. It means that the lake effect wind is coming. It's blowing in. Like, that could only be the case here. The money looks like it's all coming in on the under. 74% of tickets on the over, but 58% of the cash on the under. Total drop from 7.5 to 7.5 juice to the under, but there's like almost no room for error there with an under like that. And with how this pitching matchup sets up, I would probably disagree with it, to be honest. I think the weather is probably being factored in too much into that total at this point, given what that pitching matchup is. So I don't love that. A's and Toronto. Toronto has kind of wrecked them in both games, scoring whatever that is, 23 runs in the last two games, although last night was a little bit closer at 11-7. So the A's probably want to bounce back. The Cubs, by the way, probably want to bounce back as well after that ugly loss yesterday to the Reds. So, I mean, they are favored, but I don't know. A's, Toronto. We got Gunnar Hoglund pitching for the A's here. Hoagland, I don't know how you pronounce his name. He hasn't been doing that well. 5.13 ERA, 1.41 whip. However, he has been way worse at home because that stadium that the A's play in is that really home run conducive stadium. It's not great, even though he's actually allowed more home runs on the road, but he's still been way worse at home with a 6 ERA at home, 3.97 on the road. Overall, 5.13 ERA, 1.41 whip. Those numbers are not good. Overall, 22-9 strikeout walk ratio isn't really that bad, though. But he's allowed 6 home runs, which is kind of brutal. Although 3 of them were to the Dodgers, and 2 of the other ones were in that bad A's ballpark where they're playing in that AAA stadium. Of course, Toronto has never seen him before. So when you have a young guy like this who does have some decent stuff, he might have a little bit of an extra edge against a lineup that hasn't seen him before. And maybe Toronto's bats will cool off at some point because they've been too hot the last couple of days. But again, they are on kind of that hot streak, and sometimes that does continue in baseball. And Toronto has Braden Fisher starting. I don't even know who this guy is. It looks like he's a rookie this year. He's only been pitching out of the bullpen. He has a 0 ERA as well and a .48 whip, 12-1 strikeout walk ratio. So he has been pretty good out of the bullpen for Toronto so far. He's probably getting like an opener start as well. He's probably only going to go 1 to 2 innings in this game would be my guess. But we really don't know what's going to happen with him. So he also has not been seen by the A's. So both starting pitchers have never been seen before. But we don't know how long Fisher is going to be in there. And the total's sitting at 9. So the odds makers are kind of expecting this to be a higher scoring game here. So I will just stay away from that, obviously. But we'll see what happens. By the way, the money is coming in on the Cubs, up from -145 to -159. 70% of tickets, 98% of the cash. I think that probably is legitimate movement on the Cubs to try to bounce back from that loss. It might make sense with Lodolo being that bad against the Cubs specifically, and the Cubs having just seen him. They do have a little bit of an edge there, but still, we don't know what the hell we're going to get out of the Cubs pitching staff today, so a lot of games like that where it's like, what the hell is going to happen here? Baltimore, I believe, got a win yesterday against the White Sox, barely, 2-1. So, hey, Baltimore actually able to win as a huge favorite, and they're a huge favorite again because they're still playing the White Sox. Davis Martin is pitching for the White Sox. His numbers really aren't that bad this year. 3.45 ERA, 1.26 whip. He's been okay this month with a 17-5 strikeout walk ratio, 3.68 ERA. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but he's only allowed more than 3 earned runs once this month. And in his last 3 starts, he's gone at least 6 innings in all of them and allowed 2 or fewer earned runs in all of them. So actually not bad, somewhat impressive there. Although he is he's not really a strikeout guy, which does worry me a little bit. Against Baltimore, only Rivera has ever seen him before, and he's 1 for 4 off him with an RBI double and a strikeout. So there's really not much to take away from that, other than that Baltimore has not seen Martin before. So Martin might have a little bit of an edge against Baltimore there, and he's in okay form right now. Dean Creamer is pitching for Baltimore, and you know I hate this guy personally, man. No, I do not like him as a pitcher. I think he sucks. 5.02 ERA, 1.39 whip. Not good. 24 to 8 strikeout walk ratio and a 2.97 ERA in the month of May, though. He has actually been good in the month of May for the most part. Not going too deep into games, though. The last 3 games haven't really been as good. He allowed 4 earned runs in 2 of them, and he has not gone 6 innings in any of them. 2 of them were on the road, but still, I just don't think Creamer is very good, to be honest. Up against the White Sox, he actually isn't good either, even though they're a weak lineup. 20 at-bats. He has 5 walks, only 3 strikeouts. He's allowed 2 home runs to Sosa, not Sammy Sosa, Lennon Sosa, the communist version of Sosa. He's instead of dyeing his skin orange, he dyes it red. And then who's the other home run? Tauchman. I don't even know. How do you pronounce these guys' names? I don't fucking know. He's also got a walk against him, but the home run is his only hit in 5 at-bats. But at any rate, Creamer has allowed a 300 average and 1,040 OPS to this pretty bad White Sox lineup. So, yeah, I mean, I think Baltimore's overpriced in this game, to be honest. I mean, it might actually be worth taking a shot on the White Sox. Actually, this line is plummeted, actually. So the money is actually agreeing with that and coming in on the White Sox, down from minus 210 to minus 161. A huge drop in the line on Baltimore. 79% of tickets on Baltimore. The public, even though Baltimore is terrible, the public wants nothing to do with the White Sox. 83% of the cash coming in on the White Sox. I would say, man, if you want to grab the White Sox on like a run line, or if you want to just straight up just take a flyer on them on the money line, I actually don't necessarily hate that. I mean, we know Baltimore sucks. They probably should not be that big a favorite, and I think they actually have the disadvantage in the pitching matchup. You got to dig in a little bit more and make sure that the bullpen scenario is okay for it if you want to do like a full game, but it looks like it might be worth firing on that one. I'm not going to actually recommend it as a play on the show, though. What I will recommend is the next game up. I'm going to give you one of these first 5 unders, and I think this total is too high, honestly, for a first 5 under. And it's somewhat because both teams have good offenses, but I like the pitching in this one, at least the starting pitching. We are going to go Milwaukee, Philadelphia, under 4.5. You can get it at about minus 115 right now, which I think is a decent price to get it under what I think is a little bit of a high total of 4.5. The full game total is 8.5. Which seems about right, but I like the starting pitching matchup here, man. It's just that both of these offenses are good, and I would not want to go full game on this because both bullpens are not very good, and Philadelphia is overworked right now, I think, because they had to play 2 games the day before yesterday, so they're still not. I think that kind of lingers for a couple of days with like the bullpen rest scenario, so I would not want to factor the bullpens into this game, but I like the starting pitching matchup in this one. Yesterday, Philadelphia lost yesterday, actually, as well, which I mentioned that because they were coming off playing a doubleheader the day before that, as I just said. So Milwaukee did have an edge yesterday. Starting pitching here, we're not going to go with the side here. We're going with the total. Chad Patrick pitching for the Brewers. I have given out some plays on him on the show before, either on, I think usually it is on unders with him that I've been going with and not on the Brewers side, but I like the way he's been pitching so far, man, and what I think is his rookie season. He's got a 2.97 ERA, which is really good. 1.25 whip isn't quite as good, but I might give him a little bit of a pass. I mean, his numbers this month are pretty good as well. 3.38 ERA, a 29 to 7 strikeout walk ratio is a pretty good ratio. Fewer than one hit per inning, and he hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start. It is a little bit worrisome that he has not gone more than 5 innings in his last 2, or more than 4 2/3 in his last 2 outings, but he did have a 13 to 3 strikeout walk ratio across those 2, and he only allowed 1 run combined across those 2. So if he does that again here and he gets us 4 2/3 and doesn't allow anything, that's going to be good for the under on his part. So hopefully, I mean, if he does that, that would be fine. And I think he has a little bit of an extra edge because Philadelphia has never seen him before, even though, yes, they have good bats. But I think he's at a little bit more of an advantage because that offense has not seen him before. So I always talk about that with young pitchers. The hitters usually take a few times to adjust to like figure that pitcher out in a live game environment. Patrick, by the way, looking at his splits, he has actually been a little bit worse on the road. So you do have to take that into account. He's been better at home fairly significantly, a 4.12 road ERA to a 2.37 home ERA, but still, I think he does have enough advantages in this game. And then you got Luzardo, who I think can really help us out with this under as well. He's been pitching really well for Philadelphia. 2.15 ERA, 1.18 whip. I mean, he's challenging Wheeler for ace status here, man. Luzardo's been really, really good. He's got a very low 1.99 ERA at home. He's been good both ways. He goes both ways, man. 2.29 ERA on the road. Either way, it's good. Against Milwaukee, he does have good numbers and 40 at-bats, 200 average, allowed 498 OPS. So Luzardo not only has been dominant this season, but he has pretty dominant numbers against Milwaukee. He's been dominant this month as well with a 36-9 strikeout walk ratio, 2.64 ERA, well over 1 strikeout per inning, 10 strikeouts apiece in his last 2 outings. In both of those horrific stadiums, in Coors Field and at that A's stadium, where he only gave up 1 home run across that entire stretch, which is pretty impressive, and just mowing hitters down because he probably knew that he needed to in those extreme hitting parks. Pretty impressive for Luzardo, so I like the under in the first 5 innings just because I don't want to deal with the bullpens. It looks like the money is agreeing with that, with the total getting a little bit more juice on the under 8.5 for the full game. 73% of tickets are on the over because, of course, the public is going to see Brewers Philly, and they're only going to want to play an over if they play a total in this game. But the cash only is coming in to the tune of 64% on the over. So I will recommend an under in the first 5 innings in that game. Unpronounceable names. Cricket. Well, I'm usually pretty good at pronouncing names, but I don't know. Some of these names, it's just like, it's anybody's guess, really, but I think I'm at least close. A game where we don't have to worry about how to pronounce these guys' names. St. Louis and Texas. Sonny Gray against Patrick Corbin in this one. Texas, of course, blew St. Louis out yesterday. So does St. Louis bounce back here? I'm not really so sure because Sonny Gray has actually been bad on the road this year. His splits are pretty extreme. He's got a 3.23 home ERA and 6.75 road ERA, so that's not good. He's been much, much worse on the road. I like Sonny Gray, though. Overall, he's still good. 4.06 ERA is actually higher than it probably should be, given that he has a 1.16 whip, which is good. 33-6 strikeout walk ratio in the month of May. He had a 4.67 ERA, and it's all kind of skewed just because he had this one really bad game at Philadelphia where he gave up 7 runs on 3 home runs. Other than that, he's been pretty good. But again, that was a road game. Hasn't been as good on the road. Up against Texas, though, their offense isn't very good despite that outburst yesterday. Gray has been good against them in 62 at-bats, 226 average allowed, 579 OPS. So this might be one of Gray's better road games against a Texas offense like that, especially when, you know, St. Louis probably has got to come out focused to try to limit this Texas offense after that un-Texas-like offensive explosion yesterday. As you can see, look at their 3 previous games. They hadn't scored more than 2 runs in any of them. They scored 1, 2, and 0 in those 3 games against Toronto. So this is not a Texas team that is exploding offensively like that, which is, again, part of the reason why I gave out the under in that game yesterday. I can't believe they scored 11 runs. Patrick Corbin on the mound, though, for Texas, I mean, he's been serviceable for Texas. 3.75 ERA, 1.29 whip. Obviously, you know, I don't really love this guy, though, at all. I mean, I would say that I don't like him really at all. 23-10 strikeout walk ratio this month is still not good. His whip is too high. That ratio is not very good. 3.72 ERA is pretty good, though. Because, again, you got to look at how these guys profile. Although, in this case, I actually don't even think that tells us the story. Because usually guys with that have a whip that's too high, yet they keep their ERA down. Usually they're a extreme ground ball pitcher, but he is not. He gives up a lot of fly balls, so I don't know. I think Corbin is probably on the verge of getting torched at some point here, man. Even though he hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start, I guess this entire season, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, he's old at this point. He was terrible when he was on Washington. I still think he's not good. Up against St. Louis, his numbers not great. 89 at bats, 14 to 11 strikeout walk ratio is terrible. Arenado specifically does damage against him. 15 for 52 with 3 doubles, 3 home runs, 7 walks. So if you want hits plus runs plus RBIs prop, Arenado looks like a decent shot there. Overall, 270 average allowed, 766 OPS allowed by Corbin to St. Louis's hitters. So I don't really want anything to do with Corbin. I worry a little bit about Gray on the road. Looking at this matchup just kind of in a vacuum, it's like, well, Gray is the way better pitcher. But that is why St. Louis is a huge favorite here, despite being on the road. It's because Gray is the better pitcher, but it does look like the money is coming in on St. Louis to bounce back. And I wouldn't disagree with that just because Gray is the better pitcher over Corbin. 61% of tickets, 72% of the cash coming in on St. Louis. They're up from minus 128 to minus 147. So you are laying a little bit of a price there for St. Louis at this point. You could go with a -1 run line or something at that point if you want to knock the price down a bit. That's probably the way that I would lean in that game, even though, yes, I know Gray isn't very good on the road, but those numbers are somewhat skewed by that bad game against Philadelphia. And, of course, Texas's offense is way worse than Philadelphia's. But if you are looking full game, Texas does have the bullpen edge, but that's really the only edge they have in that game, in my opinion. Anaheim and Cleveland. Man, when I first looked at this, I was like, Cleveland has got to be the right side here because Kyle Hendricks, I mean, I basically always look to fade Kyle Hendricks. Cleveland, they did lose yesterday as well, coming off a game beating the Dodgers, so it could have been maybe a little bit of a letdown spot there. So Anaheim actually caught them, so Cleveland is in a bounce-back spot as well. Kyle Hendricks, I mean, he's just not good. 5.23 ERA, 1.26 whip. I mean, he's an old man at this point. His strikeout walk ratio in May is pretty good, though. 20 to 4, 4.15 ERA. I mean, those numbers are not terrible. He has only allowed 4 earned runs at most this month, which is in that A's stadium again. But I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess his pitching this month has been fairly impressive, especially for a guy like him who I think is just not good at all. Against Cleveland, he does not have good numbers. Only 4 of their hitters have seen him before. 36 at bats. They have a 306 average, 937 OPS, 7 walks, only 4 strikeouts. Carlos Santana crushes him, even though he is old now. Both these guys are old. Santana 6 for 18 with 2 doubles, 5 walks. So if you want to look for some player props there, Ramirez is 4 for 9 off of him. So those couple of guys hit him well. Rest of the lineup hasn't seen Hendricks, but I just don't expect Hendricks to be very good here, man. And he's also been way worse on the road with a 6.37 road ERA compared to 3.8 at home. So it sets up decently to expect Hendricks to not do well in this game. And Cleveland is pitching Slade Ciccone, who has been really good for them so far. He's a young guy still. I liked what we were seeing out of him when he was on, where was he, Arizona. But he looks like he might be becoming a really good pitcher. 3.27 ERA, 1.09 whip. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can take away from that, but these were not easy assignments here. Pitching at Great American Ballpark, very hitter-friendly park, and then at Detroit, where we know Detroit plays really well at home. And he pitched well, pretty well in both games, really, racking up a lot of strikeouts. He's got a 14 to 2 strikeout walk ratio across those 2 starts. He went at least 5 in both of them. Did allow 3 runs in one of them, but then 1 run in the other. Overall, he's definitely been good so far. And up against Anaheim, though, this is where I worry a little bit about wanting to play Cleveland here because his stats against Anaheim, this is crazy. I know it's a small sample size of 11, but they're 8 for 11 off him with 2 home runs from Adele and Nido. 727 average, 2,182 OPS. Yeah, those numbers are not sustainable, but Ciccone, when he's faced these Anaheim hitters, even when they didn't know who he was, they hit him pretty well. So that does give me a little bit of pause, but I still think that Cleveland is probably the right side to bounce back there. I mean, Ciccone is the way better pitcher over Hendricks, the way younger pitcher with a higher ceiling, with better stuff. So that's still the way that I would lean. Cleveland down from -180 to -175, 88% of tickets, 97% of the cash. I would lay a Cleveland run line on that one as well. So that would be my lean there. Boston, my Red Sox at Atlanta. The Red Sox actually got the win yesterday, thanks to the fact that Atlanta played 2 games the day prior to that. So the Red Sox did have the edge. Giolito still didn't even pitch well for the Red Sox, and he still just kind of escaped the game. Grant Holmes actually pitched pretty well again for Atlanta, but he just happened to give up more runs. Now we have what looks like it could be a decent pitching matchup, and I know I'm saying that about Walker Buehler here, who I don't like. Buehler, he has been pitching okay for the Red Sox. 3.95 ERA, 1.2 WHIP. Maybe he is actually kind of returning to form and finding something, but I don't really know because this month he did have a shortened start, which is the start that he got ejected from for arguing that horrible call. He should not have been ejected, man. He was pitching a no-hitter into the 3rd inning, man. So that was ridiculous. Then he came back, pitched again. He was mediocre. I mean, in those 2 starts combined, 7-4, strikeout walk ratio isn't that good, but he did only allow 2 earned runs for a 2.45 ERA. I mean, overall, yeah, I mean, he hasn't been that bad. His first 2 starts were bad, giving up 4 and 5 earned runs, but since then he hasn't allowed more than 3 in any other start, so that's not too bad. He has faced a lot of weak offenses, though. Really, the only good offense he's faced all year is the Mets. And of course, we don't know how he really did in that game because he got thrown out of the game. Against the Braves, we're going to see what happens here. He does have good numbers historically against them in 75 at-bats, 200 average, 530 OPS, and a pretty nice 21-5 strikeout walk ratio. So Buehler might actually do well in this game. He hasn't been good on the road this year, though. The 5.28 ERA compared to 3.16 at home. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if he is actually returning to form. I really just don't want to, I wouldn't want to actually have my money on him, especially when he's up against Spencer Schwellenbach, and Schwellenbach is a really good pitcher. 3.42 ERA, 1.05 WHIP. This month, it's been a little bit rougher, 4.11 ERA, but still 27-6 strikeout walk ratio, still pretty good. So he's been getting a little bit unlucky, in my opinion, because he's just allowed some home runs in there. And yeah, I mean, that's about the size of it. He's gone 7 innings in each of the last 3 starts, but I think he might have a disadvantage here because he did face the Red Sox 2 starts ago, and he did okay, but he did give up 4 runs, even though he did go 7 innings, which is good, and was pretty efficient with his pitches. But the Red Sox were able to get to him for 4 runs. That was at Fenway Park. But like I said, when a pitcher has just faced an opposing offense, and the offense now is like recently used to facing that pitcher, the offense tends to have a little bit of an edge the next time out, and that might be the case with the Red Sox bats here, because I think Buehler has not faced Atlanta this year. Is that right? Yeah, no, he hasn't. So the Red Sox have that advantage that Atlanta does not here. And Schwellenbach, actually, his numbers are not that good against the Red Sox. In his career, 35 at-bats, 286 average, 896 OPS. Devers, particularly, is pretty good against him. 2 for 5 with 2 home runs. Hamilton somehow was 3 for 5 off him with a couple of doubles. So a couple of guys that hit him pretty well. So actually, well, on the surface, looks like Schwellenbach does have a pretty big edge here. I think the edge is not as much as you would think. So I don't know. It does look like the money's coming in on Atlanta. They're up from -160 to -175. 59% of tickets, 62% of the cash coming in on them. So the money does look like it's kind of coming in on Atlanta there. I think the price is just too much to pay on Atlanta, though, even though, yes, Atlanta is better right now than the record looks. Yes, they're going to be a little bit angry and want to bounce back from yesterday, but they probably still are kind of having that rest advantage lingering a little bit, because they had to play the doubleheader the day before that, and the Red Sox didn't have to play, even though both teams did use some of their bullpen yesterday. Colorado at New York, the Mets. This is going to be one of the biggest lines you'll ever see, as the Mets are more than a -400 favorite here. There's obviously no way you can lay a price like that. Up from -380 to -410. 86% of the tickets, 95% of the cash coming in on them. I mean, I don't think there's any way that you want to play Colorado here, though. I mean, the line is this high for a reason. Colorado is so bad on the road. Senzatella is pitching for them. He's awful. 6.5 ERA, 1.94 WHIP. I mean, just overall, he's been awful. I mean, I don't even think we really have to get into it. He sucks. We know this. Kodai Senga putting up good numbers. 1.46 ERA is really good for the Mets, but his WHIP is rising. 1.24 WHIP. He's walking too many guys this month, man. 27-17 strikeout walk ratio, even though he's posted a 1.67 ERA over that span. He is walking too many guys. And if you put that many guys on base, you're going to get into trouble, man. 4 of the last 5 starts, he's walked at least 3. So Senga has been a little bit wild as of late. Facing some good offenses in there. Yeah, Arizona, Dodgers, even the Red Sox aren't really that bad. So will he settle down a little bit against a really bad Rockies lineup? He might. I mean, you look at his numbers against the Rockies. It's a small sample size, but they're 0 for 19 off him with 8 strikeouts and 2 walks for a 0 average and 0.95 OPS. So Senga, in a limited sample size, has dominated these Colorado hitters, not surprisingly, really. And Senzatella, did I even go over his numbers up against the Mets? They're bad. 68 at-bats, 353 average, 1,027 OPS. Obviously, the Mets basically have every edge in this game, but you can't lay a price like this. The total's really low at 7.5. So Senga, because he dominates Colorado so much, I mean, you could maybe go Colorado under their team total. It's probably going under 2.5 or 2, which I know there's almost no room for error there, but it might happen. I mean, this Colorado offense, they stink on the road, and Senga specifically has really good numbers against them. But I worry a little bit with Senga walking way too many guys recently. Yeah, Colorado this year, they're actually worse than the White Sox were last year, which is really, really crazy. They did beat the Yankees once. Colorado, they'll get some wins at home on occasion there. I think they have maybe 1 or 2 road wins as well. But yeah, San Francisco at Miami. Robbie Ray is pitching here. Well, now, first, I should say, I think Miami's in a decent spot here because they returned home yesterday and they lost the game. And you know, I always talk about when a team returns home, especially in this case, they're returning home from the Pacific Coast. Even though they were facing a pretty good Giants team, teams a lot of times will have like distractions coming into play because they have to return to family life, whatever. I mean, Miami just wasn't the better team anyway. But a lot of times when they do badly in that first game, they got shut out. They'll tend to do better in the next game. So I expect Miami to do better in this next game. How much better? I don't know. But if we look at the box score, I think the Giants used a ton of relievers. Yeah, they did. The Giants used 6 guys out of their bullpen in that game yesterday, and the Marlins only used 1. So that's going to take away any bullpen advantage the Giants would have, I think, because the Giants still, I think, have the best bullpen ERA in the league. Yeah, they do. I can zoom in on this if you want. So the Giants still are sitting by far the best bullpen ERA, 2.43, elite bullpen. But since they used basically their whole bullpen yesterday, and the Marlins didn't use any of theirs, they used Junk, who is a junk pitcher, to just clean it up and just finish the game, the last 4 innings of the game. And Quantrill actually didn't even pitch that bad yesterday. Miami's bullpen does have a rest advantage coming into this game. So I think that at least negates the advantage that San Francisco would have with their really good bullpen. Robbie Ray is on the mound. I know he's having a good season for San Francisco. 2.56 ERA, 1.15 whip. I just keep saying I don't think he's as good as he has been this year so far. And yeah, I know his numbers are good this month too. 36-8 strikeout walk ratio. 1.41 ERA, so he is in good form right now. I wouldn't want to fade him right now, but I do think at some point the regression has to happen because, I mean, he's a guy who's in his 30s, and you look at his career numbers, they're not as good as this. So I don't think that all of a sudden at like 33 you start dominating the league. That doesn't happen. He is more hittable on the road. He has a 1.89 home ERA, or not hittable, but you can get to him more on the road, I guess I should say. 3.55 road ERA. So Ray is worse on the road. He's going up against Edward Cabrera, who I actually think is kind of an under-the-radar guy right now. I mean, he's a guy that throws hard. He can definitely strike guys out at a high rate. He's just always too wild. 4.73 ERA, 1.4 whip. I mean, I know those numbers are not good, but he is pitching well this month with a 23-5 strikeout walk ratio, 10 strikeouts in that last game he pitched, which that was a play I gave out on the show. Miami in that game against Anaheim, and that happened. We got a win on that one with a nice Miami underdog price there with Cabrera on the mound. 2.53 ERA this month, also really good. Fewer than 1 hit per inning. Hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start this inning, but he throws too many pitches, so he's not going that deep into these games. But he has kind of limited his walks recently, so Overall, I do like Cabrera. He does have good stuff. He's just got to be more efficient with his pitches. Got to make sure he continues not walking guys. We'll see what we get out of him here, man. But I do kind of like Cabrera, and he has good numbers against the Giants for the most part in 34 at-bats. Again, he has walked too many. 7 walks to 10 strikeouts, 3 walks to Adames. But other than that, he's held him to a 176 average, 582 OPS. So Cabrera has actually been good. Ray, I forgot to look at his numbers against Miami. I think they are good because Miami sucks. Actually, only Sanchez has ever seen him before, and he's 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. So Miami, actually, their offense has not seen Ray before either. So I think the way that I would probably look at this is under in the first 5 innings. I think is probably the way to look at this game. The money is coming in on Miami too, though, and I don't disagree with that. I think it is a decent bounce back spot for Miami. I think Cabrera is under the radar. I think he can go toe-to-toe with Ray. And then if you get to the bullpens, San Francisco's typical bullpen advantage that they have, like I said, is kind of erased by the fact they used way too many of their guys yesterday. 82% of the tickets are on San Francisco, but 60% of the cash on Miami, with the line dropping from minus 170 to minus 142. So a big money line move there. I think big money is coming in on Miami there. 65% of tickets and 70% of the cash are on the over, but I don't really agree with that, although that is the full game. I would not want to deal with the bullpens because San Francisco burned out their bullpen. Miami's bullpen is not good. So as far as the under, I would do it in the first 5 innings, although it would probably be about a 3.5 at this point, because as you can see, the total has actually dropped from 8 down to 7.5. So the total has moved towards the under, and I do think I kind of agree with that. Altitude sickness in their favor. Well, Colorado is used to playing in the elevation, I guess. So that is an advantage to them at home just because they're used to playing there, but it still hasn't been that much of an advantage for them this year because they're so bad. So that game, I leaned to Miami, getting them as an underdog there, and I leaned to a first 5 under. Detroit at Kansas City. Oh boy. So Detroit won the game yesterday. I think both teams did have to dip into their bullpens a bit here. Yeah, both teams used a bit of their bullpen. Detroit used a little bit more of theirs than Kansas City did because they had to hold on to the lead. But maybe that won't matter because Detroit has Skubal on the mound today, and he's usually going to get you deep into the game. 2.49 ERA, 0.84 whip. However, he didn't go deep 2 starts ago where he was out after 5 2/3. His last outing, he had that crazy 9-inning shutout, and that was a win I gave out on the show too. I gave out the Detroit money line in that game because they had lost 3 straight to Cleveland, so they came back with a nice game in that one. Mostly Skubal just erased Cleveland completely. Complete game, 13 strikeout performance with no walks. Amazing performance. I think probably that was his best career start. Well, maybe it wasn't. Has he thrown a no-hitter? I don't even know. But that was a complete game 2-hitter. Amazing performance. It was his best performance of the year, and he did it with in 94 pitches, so he didn't overextend to get it done either. So a lot of times when a guy makes a start like that, they'll throw way more pitches, and you'll want to look to fade them in the next start. I still think he's probably going to not do. I mean, how could he do as well as that again? He probably won't do that well again. So he might regress a little bit in this game just because he's coming off such a stellar performance there. But he's Skubal, man. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Against the Royals, his numbers are not actually like dominant, but they're decent. In 132 at-bats, 42-7 strikeout walk ratio is excellent. But he has a lot of 258 average, which is pretty low, but a 734 OPS getting into the higher range. And that's almost entirely because Perez has 4 home runs off him in 33 at-bats, but he also has 11 strikeouts against him. So Perez is very hit or miss against him, literally. But Skubal overall, he should get you a good performance almost every single game. This might be a game where he might not do quite as well, though. And then Waka for Kansas City, 3.21 ERA, 1.26 whip, very typical of what he gets you. He's not a huge strikeout guy, 18-5 ratio this month, strikeout walk ratio, still not bad. It's just a low strikeout rate. Only had 1 in his last outing, which I don't love. He's allowed more than 1 hit per inning this month, which isn't good, but he still somehow has posted a 3.03 ERA, allowed 4 earned runs in his last start, but prior to that, he had gone many starts in a row without allowing more than 3, going all the way back to April 5th. So he's been good throughout the season as far as limiting the opponent's run totals. Against Detroit, he doesn't have very good numbers, though. In 127 at bats, 291 average, allowed 825 OPS. So Wnba has not been as good against Detroit. He is better at home, though, and Skubal is a little bit worse on the road, I'm pretty sure, but Skubal's basically good anywhere. Wnba is a little bit better at home, but because Wnba doesn't do well against Detroit, because Skubal's coming off a huge performance, I might actually say there might be a sneaky over look in this game, especially if both these pitchers are out of the game, and then you're getting into the bullpens, and both bullpens are fairly good, but they're both somewhat unrested right now. They're both kind of used after yesterday, so this could be a little bit of a sneaky overplay. I mean, I don't think you're really getting any value playing an under in a Skubal game. The total's actually gone up from 7 to 7.5, but we do see 55% of tickets on the over, 59% of the cash on the under, so the cash disparity is still on the under. But I don't know, man. I could see this game getting over the total potentially. Detroit up from minus 160 to minus 179 there, so Skubal, you're paying a tax for Skubal almost always at this point, man, because everybody knows how good he is at this point. So probably not much value in trying to play Detroit there, even though, yes, Wnba does have bad numbers against Detroit. Tampa Bay at Houston. Houston won the game yesterday 2-1 after losing 13-3 the game before that, so they bounced back nicely with a win. I think they actually won on a walk-off, and Framber Valdez pitched a complete game for Houston yesterday and only threw 83 pitches, so a very efficient game from Valdez, which is pretty crazy. So Houston's bullpen is well-rested coming into this game. Tampa didn't really use much of theirs either. They used 2 of their relief pitchers. So that was a real under. That was an under game yesterday for sure. Maybe should have given it out. I just didn't really trust Pepio in that game, really. I leaned to Houston in the game. They did get it done. Today we got Zach Littell going for the Rays, 3.97 ERA, 1.08 WHIP. Good numbers this year, but I think he's a regression candidate. I don't think he's that good, but this month, 2.84 ERA, 20-2 strikeout walk ratio, only allowed more than 2 earned runs once in a 7 1/3 inning performance against Toronto. That wasn't even that bad. So he is in good form right now, and the Rays have won 6 games in a row with him on the mound after they started the season losing his first 5 games, where he had a couple of real stinkers in there. He's been pitching pretty well recently, and pitched against a couple of good teams in there as well, a couple of good offenses. Yankees, Milwaukee, San Diego, although that was at San Diego's hitter-friendly park. But Littell, he's hard for me to figure out, man. Against Houston, his numbers are not good, though. In 68 at-bats, 294 average, 765 OPS. So it is possible he doesn't do as well here against Houston. His road ERA is a little bit higher than his home ERA this year at 4.18. So Littell maybe in line for some regression right now, but I don't really necessarily want to fade him when he is pitching pretty well right now. And he's up against Colton Gordon for the Astros, who has a 5.52 ERA and 1.43 WHIP. None of that looks good, but he does have a 14-2 strikeout walk ratio and hasn't walked anybody since his first start. And Houston has won all 3 of the games that he's pitched so far. Granted, it was against some bad offenses, and one of them was Tampa, and they scored 3 runs off him, which wasn't that great. For Gordon, it was okay. He's allowed exactly 3 in all 3 games. So he's been keeping his team in the games, and they won all 3 games by a score of either 4-3 or 5-3. So, I mean, he's been consistently, like, decent, at least, I guess. But because Tampa just saw him, Tampa might be in line to hit him a little bit better this time because they just saw him. Up against Tampa overall, 21 at-bats, 7.0 strikeout walk ratio, 238 average, but a 714 OPS, getting a little bit higher because Jansen does have a home run off him. But overall, Gordon did do well against him, but again, he did just face Tampa Bay, so he's at a little bit of a disadvantage there, but Littell is at the same disadvantage because he did just face Houston, and he did pretty well, and his numbers against Houston are not that good, so I think the way to look at this game is probably the over. At 8.5, 73% of the tickets, 99% of the cash on the over. I know that percentage can't be right, but because both pitchers just saw these opposing lineups, we know Littell doesn't have good numbers against Houston. I think the over could be worth a look there. Minnesota at Seattle is my second and final baseball play, and I said it's another first 5-inning under. That's where I'm going here, and I know I'm going with another game where I'm going to bank on a pitcher returning from injury. I'm doing it again, man. I know it has not worked out for me well, and I'm doing it again. Maybe I should stop doing it. If Bryce Miller doesn't do okay for us here, maybe I have to stop doing it completely. But yesterday's game was higher scoring than it should have been because it went into extra innings, and Minnesota scored 6 runs in extra innings, even though the game did go over anyway. But, I mean, that was a game that the starting pitchers actually did decently in the game. They just did poorly enough that that the game had enough runs scored to go over the total and wound up going into extra innings. Little bit misleading. So I think we might be in line for a bit of a lower scoring game this time. We got Bailey Ober on the mound for Minnesota, and I know he has not been as good on the road. 2.32 ERA, 4.67 road ERA, 2.32 at home, 4.67 on the road. Yes, that is a little bit worrisome. But if you look at his road stats, they're almost entirely skewed by that one bad start to open the season where he gave up 8 runs at St. Louis. I mean, other than that, he hasn't been that bad on the road. He had one other bad road start at Baltimore, but I think you can kind of explain that too because he had just faced Baltimore the game before that. So again, that was one of those spots where an offense had just seen him, so they did better against him the next time out. Those were his only 2 bad road starts because he did have good road starts at Kansas City and at Cleveland. He's in a pitcher-friendly park here. So I think Ober probably in line to do okay again here. 3.41 ERA overall. 1.33 whip does worry me. That whip is too high, but if you look at his numbers this month, I mean, they haven't been that bad. 21-6 strikeout walk ratio. Allowed 1 earned run in 4 out of the 5 starts. Did allow 3 in the game against Baltimore, and one of the starts was a shortened start due to rain against Cleveland, but he has pitched well in basically all of them except that Baltimore start where he did still only give up 3 earned runs there, and they still won the game. Minnesota has actually won, what is that? They had won 7 of his starts in a row prior to losing that last one. So they've won most of Ober's starts. But we're not looking for Minnesota to win this one. We're looking for this game to be low scoring in the first 5 innings. And we look at Ober's stats against the Mariners. They are good. In 47 at-bats, he has 12 strikeouts, 5 walks. 5 walks a little bit high, but still, he's held to a 191 average, 525 OPS. So Ober has done well against Seattle when he has faced them. And we got Bryce Miller making his return here. And I know he hasn't been good this year. 5.22 ERA, 1.54 whip. I understand he's been really, really bad this year. But if you look at his overall stats, this can't continue, man. For his entire career, which has been the last couple of seasons with Seattle, he actually improved from his rookie season where he still only had a 1.14 whip, which is pretty good. And 4.32 ERA was higher than it should have been. He improved on that to last year with a 2.94 ERA and 0.98 whip. So Miller, he's not as bad as these numbers would tell you that he is so far this season. I think he's going to get better again. I mean, all of his career numbers would suggest that this is kind of a blip and that he is going to do better. And if you look at his 2024 splits, he was actually way better at home, as a lot of these Seattle pitchers are, because it's a pitcher-friendly park. Last year, he had a 1.96 ERA at home and 4.07 on the road, so he had extreme splits last year. So I think Miller should come in and do well in this game, man, in my opinion. He's coming back from injury. He's been out since May 11th, which isn't that long of a layoff. Had a really bad couple of starts in May. I think he's ready to bounce back. I mean, he was actually doing fairly well prior to that, except he had way too many walks in the month of April. He's really, I don't know what that was, because that really has not been an issue for him throughout his career. So he's got to get that under control again. But I think he's going to return to form at some point. I think he's going to be ready. I mean, I haven't looked to see what his minor league, rehab appearances looked like, but as long as those are pretty good, the team is saying he's ready to go, so I think he's ready to go. He's up against a Minnesota offense that doesn't do a ton of damage usually. 28 at-bats that they have against Bryce Miller. Vasquez does have a home run off him, former Red Sox Christian Vasquez, but other than that, he has a 6.1 strikeout walk ratio. The 4 of those strikeouts are Castro, but he's held Minnesota to a 214 average and 670 OPS. So I like how this sets up for both starters, to be honest here. We just got to hope that Miller is back in form here. And we're going under in the first 5 innings with a, you can get a total of 4, but you do have to pay a little bit extra for it because this is a low total at 7. So the odds makers also are lining this, expecting Miller to do pretty well here. 92% of tickets, 93% of the cash on the over. So the over is very public here. I think people are kind of just looking, oh, Miller has a terrible ERA. I don't even know what they're thinking. Looking at yesterday's game, I disagree with it. I think we're going to get a lower scoring game here. And it does look like Minnesota's a public underdog after how hot they've been recently. 67% of tickets, only 66% of the cash because, again, Miller is getting disrespected here. But I think there might be some value maybe on the Seattle side, too, because of that. And because Wnba is actually a little bit worse on the road, there might be some value in grabbing Miller if he's going to return to his form that he was in last year. He is really good at home. Seattle down from -116 to -106, though. Houston, by the way, they're getting the money as well. I forgot to mention. Up from -111 to -132 with 57% of the cash on them and 64% of tickets on Tampa. So it looks like the money coming in on Houston there. Let's finish this off. Yankees, Dodgers. The Dodgers, like I said, made that comeback yesterday, won the game. It is Miller time. Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully we don't get Miller Light here. Hopefully we get, what's the Miller, their like better beer? I can't even remember what it's called. Everybody drinks Miller Light, but they have the Miller High Time. Is that what it is? High Life? High Life. Miller High Life. Yeah, hopefully we get the High Life, and I don't mean that he's allowing home runs. Hopefully we're living the High Life there. Dodgers beat the Yankees yesterday, so the Yankees still have not exacted any revenge, and really if they want revenge, they're probably going to have to win this series, which is less likely now that they lost the first game yesterday, and that took out the Yankees' best starter as well. Will Warren is pitching this time for the Yankees, but he actually hasn't been that bad. 4.09 ERA, 1.26 whip. This month, 2.7 ERA and 41-8 strikeout walk ratio. His strikeout rate has been really high, but he's still kind of been all over the place. But last 4 starts, he hasn't allowed more than 2 earned runs. So he's actually been decent, just like not going deep into games, throwing too many pitches in some of these games. We'll see what we're going to get out of him this time. He did have to go to the A's and throw in that horrible stadium. Had to pitch in Coors Field in his last start, so he's been all over the place. Hasn't really been that bad, though, doing it, and he has been a little bit worse on the road in general, though, with a 4.75 road ERA, 3.1 at home. So he is on the road here. Dodgers have never seen him before, though, and he's a decent young pitcher right now in decent form. So he might actually have a little bit of an edge against the Dodgers just because they haven't seen him before, even though, yes, he's going up against a powerful lineup here. Landon Knack is pitching for the Dodgers. He is not a very good pitcher, to be honest. 5.22 ERA, 1.36 whip. Not getting it done, although his strikeout walk ratio is not bad, 21-4, as I do keep pointing that out this month. So some of his peripherals don't look that bad, but he just gets hit hard, gives up some of these home runs, gives up runs. I don't know, man. It's possible that he kind of comes back into form here because he did have an okay season last year. A 4.35 ERA this month to go along with that 21-4 strikeout walk ratio, but that strikeout walk ratio indicates that he's not pitching that poorly. Yankees have seen him like once, I guess. Maybe he came out of the bullpen because only 3 of their guys have ever seen him before. Wells does have a home run off him and is only at bat against him, but they're 1 for 4 off him combined between Wells, Judge, and Volpe, however you pronounce his name. 250 average, 1,250 OPS allowed, though, because of that home run from Wells. So what do we do with this game? Man, I mean, I have to give the upper hand to Will Warren, I would have to say. I think he is actually the better of the 2 pitchers. It looks like the money is agreeing with me again on that side on the Yankees to bounce back after that loss yesterday. Finally get some revenge for the World Series loss, even though Yankees suck and whatever. Fuck the Yankees. But if you like money, I do think they're the right side here. Dodgers down from -122 to -105. So the money line is moving towards the Yankees. 57% of tickets and 80% of the cash on the Yankees. And a lot of money coming in on the under. 88% of tickets on the over and 75% of the cash on the under, with the total dropping from 9.5 juice to the over to 9.5. So it is a high total. And usually when the books put a line out that's that high, it does mean something. And I guess I should have listened yesterday in that Rangers game, but still didn't agree with it yesterday. And I just was shocked Liberatore was as bad as he was in that game yesterday. Does look like the cash percentage is strongly on the under in this game, though, between Yankees, Dodgers, and there is a world where both of those pitchers actually put together a good game, but it's definitely pretty dicey with 2 really good offenses there, and the pitchers still being kind of questionable. But it is kind of a sneaky under, at least, because you know the public's only going to play an over in a Yankee-Dodgers game, especially when last night's game went over. So, yeah, I mean, those are my feelings there. I guess it could be a sneaky under just because the public really does not like these two pitchers, don't even really know who they are. Pittsburgh is at San Diego. Obviously, San Diego's a huge favorite here. San Diego won yesterday, but only 3-2. They did use some of their best relievers yesterday, though. San Diego has a decent bullpen, but they used some of their best relievers to finish the game off. Bailey Falter is pitching this game for the Pirates. He's actually doing well this season, 3.47 ERA, 1.14 whip. This month, though, his strikeout walk ratio is really bad this month, though, 18-12. I mean, that is not showing that he's really commanding his pitches, but he's allowed so few hits that his whip is still low. He's only allowed 15 hits in 29 and a third innings, so very strange numbers from Falter, where he's walking a lot of guys, doesn't strike a lot of guys out, but he's somehow limiting hits like dramatically, which is crazy. And he has a .92 ERA this month, despite that awful strikeout walk ratio. So do I think he's going to regress from what he's doing here? Yeah, probably. I mean, his career numbers suggest that. 4.45 career ERA, 1.27 career whip. None of that is good. On the road, he's been way worse than at home this year. 5.09 road ERA compared to 2.45 at home. So that suggests he might be worse here because he's going to be on the road. All but one of these starts this month were at home, and that road start, he only lasted 3 2/3 against the Mets. Somehow didn't allow any runs, but he walked 5 guys. Don't know how he didn't allow any runs in that start. But I think Falter is in line to falter at some point here. Might happen here. Padres have good numbers off him in 35 at-bats, 7-5 strikeout walk ratio is not good. Machado has 2 home runs off him, so you could look for maybe some player props there. 286 average allowed, 889 OPS allowed, so I don't love Falter here. I think this is kind of like the ERAs are a little bit misleading, I think, because Falter is actually not as good as he looks. Cease is better than he looks, and he's starting to pitch better. 4.58 ERA, 1.25 whip this season. Actually, last couple of starts, he had a really good strikeout walk ratio, but he did allow 3 earned runs in both of them. But still, this month, 3.38 ERA, 36-8 strikeout walk ratio, really good. Allowed very few hits, way below 1 per inning, well over 1 strikeout per inning. So he's returning to form. Like I said, even though his last outing wasn't really the greatest against Atlanta, where I think I had an under in that game, and I think it landed right on the total and wound up pushing. But Cease, he's still way better than his numbers look here. He pitched really well last year, and I expect him to be basically doing what he's done this month and kind of continue that. He has not allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start this year, except for that really, really bad one at that A's very hitter-friendly park there. So that is skewing his numbers to some extent still. And against Pittsburgh, his numbers are okay. In 51 at-bats, 255 average allowed, 649 OPS. So I don't see any way to play this game really other than somehow playing the San Diego side, and maybe playing San Diego's team total over because it is a low total, up from 7.5 to 7.5 with juice, but expecting Falter to give up something in this game might be the way to look. San Diego over their team total. San Diego sitting at minus 215, 95% of tickets, 99% of the cash. I mean, I don't really hate the San Diego run line either, but again, it is a run line with a home team or they won't get their final 9th inning at bats if they're already winning the game. So that's a little bit of a concern whenever you do that. Although I've done that on this show a decent amount this year. So I don't really hate that idea. The run line, minus 1.5 runs on San Diego. And to finish it off, Washington and Arizona. Ohtani with a leadoff. Is he even the leadoff batter? I don't think he is, right? Because he's a power hitter. They probably have him batting like 3rd or 4th, right? I don't even know what the Dodgers lineup looks like. Washington and Arizona, although he does steal a lot of bases, so I don't know. But for him, you'd want him to be in there with more RBI chances. Arizona's obviously the better team here, but they did actually lose yesterday 9-7, so they've lost 3 games in a row. And Arizona's on a really bad stretch right now, which a lot of people might not realize. They've actually lost 8 of their last 9 games, which is insane, and they've dropped to below 500. I think they're a lot better than they look, even though their bullpen isn't that good. I'm not sure if I like them in this game, though. Even though Arizona lost yesterday, they did have to use some of their bullpen. Both teams did. Both these teams' bullpens suck, so it's never really that bad of an idea to look for overs in these games between Washington and Arizona, and yesterday certainly went over. Soraka is pitching for Washington. His numbers aren't very good. 5.61 ERA, 1.21 whip. This month, 5.23 ERA, but he does have a 22-4 strikeout walk ratio, so that kind of tells you this ERA is actually a little bit misleading because he hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in any of those starts, no more than 3 in the last few, no more than 4 in any start this year. So actually his strikeout walk numbers actually suggest that he is actually pitching better than the rest of his numbers suggest. It's just that he's allowed 5 home runs already this season in 25 2/3 innings, which is way too many home runs. So that's kind of hurting him a little bit. Against Arizona, he hasn't been that good though. In 40 at-bats, 9-5 strikeout walk ratio, 4 home runs from 4 different hitters. Naylor's 4 for 6 off him with one of those home runs. Marte does have a home run off him as well, but Naylor might be the way to look to nail Soraka here if you want a player prop. But overall, 275 average allowed, 1,031 whip there. And then we got Brandon Pfaadt pitching for Arizona. 3.9 ERA, 1.22 whip. Not bad, of course. This month, he hasn't been as good with a 5.4 ERA and 20-9 strikeout walk ratio, though. So he has been struggling a bit as the whole team has kind of been struggling recently. But 4 out of 5 of those starts were on the road for Pfaadt. He faced the Dodgers twice this month. He actually shut them out once. Faced Philly on the road, Giants on the road. I mean, that's not really that easy. So that was a rough stretch for him, a rough stretch of opponents for him. And he is way better at home with a 1.78 ERA, 5.91 on the road. So his splits indicate that he should do a little bit better at home. But his numbers against Washington are actually pretty bad in 34 at-bats. 3 home runs allowed to 3 different hitters, 294 average allowed, 940 OPS. So what do we do with that game? Because Pfaadt has good numbers at home, but he has bad numbers against Washington. He's not in the greatest form right now. Soraka has been bad both ways, on the road and at home. His numbers aren't good either. So with the bullpens probably getting involved in this game and not being well rested, I actually probably still think the over might be the right way to look, even though the total's down from 9.5 to 9. Juice the over, 92% of the tickets, 95% of the cash on the over. I don't want to play it. It's a very public over, but it is probably the lean there. And again, if you get to the bullpens, both bullpens are not only kind of used after yesterday, but they're both not very good bullpens. As we can see here, we can look at the chart there. They're both bottom 4 bullpens in ERA in the entire league there, with Arizona 5.51 and Washington at 6. Hey, they're not the worst anymore, though. Angels and A's worse than that, even though the A's have some talented relievers. That's going to do it for me, though. Oh, is Ohtani the leadoff? I don't even know. I'm not even sure, man. If he's been leading off, he probably would. He probably will. But if I was the manager, I would not have him leading off, even though he is a stolen base guy. I would probably have him batting like 3rd or something like that. I mean, it's just kind of, that's where you kind of want that speed power combo, in my opinion, and contact combo. I don't know. But I am an old school manager, man. I think the Red Sox should hire me as their manager, though. I know a lot about baseball, even though I don't have managerial experience. I don't know if I can motivate the team. I'll play ukulele for them, but that's going to do it for me. Charles, thanks for hanging out and being the only one hanging out here. Thanks for all the comments. Yeah, well, they're not going to hire me because of the ukulele covers as well. So, once again, the plays I recommended on the show are the Indiana Pacers in the NBA, which hopefully happens because I don't want to see the Knicks advance, man. Although, you got to think Oklahoma City is going to win. I mean, they're going to have the home advantage. They're going to be a big favorite in the finals, so they should win, but we'll see. And then I gave out 2 first 5 unders, Milwaukee and the Phillies there. Both of these baseball players here, and Twins, Mariners, both under in the first 5 at whatever the number you can find that's the best. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter. The Give Send Go is still up, but I believe I'm closing it out over the weekend here. So thanks for the support, guys. GiveSendGo.com/TowerGangToad if you want to do any last minute contributions there. Patreon.com/Tower Gang. Support the Tower Gang podcast and get Bohemian Grove tickets. Come see us live at the end of February, assuming it is still happening. That's going to do it for now. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.